Hello. It's Q&A Wednesday. We've been talking about potential topics to talk about, and I think we finally figure out what we want to talk about until we get some questions in. So if you have any questions, today is a great day to submit them to the Q&A. And it can be about woodworking, it can be about teaching, it can be about tools, whatever you want. So, and we are also recording this to put on YouTube later. So if you're not able to stay for the whole time or have a question about something, you can always go back and catch it on YouTube. So, okay, well, we were going to start out today with Joseph. What did you want to talk about today?
Well, we talked about possibly a good thing to talk about with some of you, or maybe some of you are at least interested in it, are tools that you've personally made that you like to work with, and maybe why you do so, and the benefit, or I guess the reasons why you would need to make or want to make your own tools when there are tons available. So I think it's interesting. I find myself most of the time it's usually out of a necessity. Sometimes it's just for fun, or just an interest in another form of working that you're interested in. So talk about some of the things that I've personally made, and hopefully you've made some, or have some interest in making some, or just like to see what we made. So
I feel like I should get out of the way for this. So
what you
so people can see a little bit better.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, it might be. I'll just maybe bring them this way. Mostly what I've made are hand planes, and I've modified a lot of things, but from scratch, mostly it's just hand planes and some hammers. So we'll start. Maybe I'll start with the very first one. So while I was at CFC, Center for Furniture Craftsmanship in Maine, one of the instructors, Adrian Ferrazzuti, he was there for part of the class. Usually the guest instructors come in for a few months at a time, and while we were working on our projects, he started making some hand planes, and I was like, wow, I just never seen it before, and this is was something I wanted to try as well. So while he was making a batch, we cut up some more pieces, and I made one as well. So this is one that he actually has an exact copy of, or the same woods, and it's white oak, wingay sole, has a hawk blade in it. These are available. They're Ron Hawk in California makes them. They're really great replacement blades for standard bench planes, and also if you want to make your own bench plane, spoke shade, they have blades. But this is the very first one. And Adrian was a student of James Kernov. So James Kernov is known for furniture and for hand tools, hand planes, and he's kind of known for these wooden hand planes, kind of rough texture where they got a lot of grip. One thing I really like about these tools, they really remind you more of an instrument than necessarily of just a tool. They're finicky, they're temperamental, they may work really good for a little bit, and then the weather changes and they change. That being said, they're extremely satisfying to make, and satisfying to use. They're lighter than a metal hand plane. The wood on wood gives you a natural burnish that it leaves a finish like nothing else. But there's no adjuster on it. There's no depth adjustment. It's all by feel. It's all by taking a hammer, setting your depth. Okay, the blade's protruding a little bit more on the right than the left, so you tap a little bit there. See where it's projecting. A lot of that. Backing up the blade at the back, that loosens the wedge, comes out. So to set the blade, you put your blade in there and then you set the wedge, and once you have your depth right, you're ready to go. So a little bit more, I don't know if I'd call it skill, but there's a learning curve in using them. I think a little bit more so than a metal bench plane. So this is the very first one I made, and with help from Adrian, and so I'm pretty fond of it. I don't use it a ton now because I've made some more. I do occasionally like to bring it out, look at it, kind of make sure what I'm doing is still kind of in line with what's being taught or what Krenov taught. Not that that's some end all, but it's a really good guideline. So this is the first one I made. So then, golly, that was 2007. I have it carved in the front there. 2007. I probably didn't make my next one. Well, actually I did. I've made a couple more that I ended up bartering with, I guess. Some smaller ones, but I think I've bartered two or three away. But the next ones I made turned out a little bit better. There's a lot to it. I mean, this cross pin. This is the next one I made, and probably one of my favorite ones. Honduran rosewood. Just skip back there. Things that can go wrong. The ramp. If you're not familiar with what the inside looks like, you have the ramp, your cross. Now, just a cross bar that basically your wedge.
Can you hold it just a little bit higher?
It's
okay.
That your wedges against and holds the blade firmly against the ramp. Then the mouth. You can see I've added this block here is a mouth insert. I've wanted to basically close it to where I had just the slightest bit of light coming through, where it was just I can take the finest shaving. And right off the bat, I think the mouth was a little bit too open for what I was aiming for. Whether it really matters or not, is to be debated. But anyway, so if this crossbar is all out of line from the wedge, the blade will never seat properly, and it really won't perform really well. So, yeah, no, I appreciate it. I was liable to be like talking over here. So there's things that can really make this thing sing or just be a dud. This one, I'm really pleased with it. It turned out well. So it's got a wooden wedge. So that blade assembly, this little channel here is for this bolt that holds the chip breaker and the blade together. So put the blade in, then your wedge goes in. That's good. So then you kind of get an idea of how much blade is projecting, and then you set the wedge with your hammer.
Can I see that real quick? Show the just the side of the wedge.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, these little textural details.
Okay, so
are pretty interesting.
Yeah, so that's like a little finger grip basically. The wedge is in there tight enough, or it's in there really tight when you set the wedge. So it's not like I can really grip that and pull it out. Once I hit the back of the plane and release that wedge, it'll come out. But it's just kind of a neat little detail, a little grab. One's textured on one side, I'm just playing around, and this one is kind of a smooth little dot. trying to see if I could carve. This is, they give you an opportunity to kind of play around with stuff maybe you wouldn't necessarily get to practice on, or wouldn't have a reason to practice on. But anyway, that's what that is. So, and I have some texture on the front. It's just like a carving gouge. Like I mentioned before, his Krenol's planes were really rough, and that was to grab because it made sense. It was more about getting the grip, and they were rough tools. The performance was not rough at all, and the inside was an intentional geometry and all that, but the outside, all the stuff that's just for show, wasn't worried about it. I decided to take it a little farther. So that's my little grip on the front, the texture. I have this little carved detail there, because basically when I grab it, I'm grabbing it. Let's see if I can get that. I don't have it here. I'm grabbing it with the front, and then kind of right there, that's my place. I actually made this one to where, not all planes can be pushed or pulled, but this one, the blade is about midway, which a lot of times they'll either be towards the front or towards the back. If you were going to pull them, be towards the back, push towards the front, or a little bit more than halfway. This one I do like to pull it some, and I push it, so it works for both of those. It's this Honda and Rosewood, Coca-Cola Soul, Honda and Rosewood little patch there, which again, I'll show you. You can, it's a little bit out of line, but there's really, you probably can't even see where there is a place for a shaving to come through. It's super tight mouth, and that was the aim. I don't know if you can, maybe this way.
That might be better.
Still, you probably not be able to see it.
Yeah.
But
that's the point, right?
That's the point. It's supposed to just disappear. See if I can. Yep, I can see a little bit.
Oh.
Just the tiniest little bit. So that was the goal. The first one I made, like I said, this one.
Yeah, let's take a look at this wedge. So how many years difference were there? You said you made this one in 2007. Did you make that one, was that 2013?
I believe it was 20, that's what I was thinking.
2013 or 2014?
2014.
So roughly 6-7 years difference.
Yeah, and like I said, there was probably 2 in between there that I played around with.
They're in a better place.
They're in a better place. I wasn't, they honestly were for somebody who probably wasn't going to use them much, and they weren't. They worked fine. They worked great, but they didn't work as good as my latest one, my last ones. But what I was going to show you is, not that this one has some huge mouth, but you can obviously see, it's on this side, that there's a light in between that blade. I'm not saying you can obviously see it, 'cause you might not. But it isn't, a hair's width in there.
So real quick, I'm gonna just check in and see. I saw we had some comments. Everybody, don't be shy. Say hello.
Please tell me it's no good. I don't care. Just talk to us.
I think some people have, but we've had to change it up a little bit today. But yeah, tell us hi, where you're from, what you're working on. Hello from Kosovo. Hello. Feeling capable of doing things. That must be why, when you said, I don't know why we make tools.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
There's definitely some... Yeah, there's...
To make your own tools to make your work. That's...
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And that's is there...
Ryan says, hi, Joe.
What's happening? Yeah.
So I didn't mean to
No. And I want to say one thing while I'm thinking about it. Obviously, tools are made to work with. Don't be afraid to modify them. That was one thing I remember being really afraid to do, and finally, it's like when I was told, like, it's no big deal, just modify them, because I think, like, oh, they come from this factory or this company, and they're exactly what they need to be, and that there is no exactly what it needs to be. There's all kind of different work, and I mean, obviously, you don't want to practice on a very expensive tool to change it, but you can modify any tool. I've modified a lot of Lee Nielsen stuff. I mean, it's not a big deal. I just needed to do something else that it wasn't quite able to do, whether it's thickness of something. I mean, just for example, quickly, just because I felt like this freed me a good bit when felt like I was going to try to make some things or to modify some things. So this is just a paring chisel, and you can see, if I can get the glare right, this different sheen here towards the front. That's me grinding that down.
Wow, yeah.
So it's got a definite, gets really thin here, and because I was trying to make some thin dovetails. Grind the chisel down.
So that was intentional, and
yeah, I mean, this is a fairly thin chisel anyway, but
right.
Like I was trying to do super, really tight,
really,
something that could get into the top of that. I mean, this one maybe not necessarily, but that's the kind of thing, this would be better if you could nail it right off the saw. But if you don't, you got to get in there somehow. All right? So there's a lot of options. You can, use a razor blade. There's all kind of stuff. Don't be afraid to use. Don't think it's got to be. It's got to. You can use a lot of things. I've taken.
Get on in there.
Yeah, just make it happen. If there's a look you want, modify a tool to make it. This was just an old marking knife.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask
Right?
about that.
Well, I took the other end and grounded a chisel to it. A super little thin chisel. It works. You're just trying to do a job that you don't have the tool for. So either you buy the tool, they might not have one like this, or you're in the middle of a project and you have to order something, you don't have the money, or you don't have the time for it to get here. I took this to a granite block with sandpaper, and this is again flat and then dives down to a thinner point, to be able to get inside some in between some small tail, or setting the pin socket on dovetails, some fine ones. So it doesn't have to be some super fancy chisel. It can be a piece of steel that you grind a bevel on. It works.
Dip back in here.
Yep.
I saw some things go by. Oh, hello. Hello. Gosh, time really does fly on these. So, what do we got next?
So this was a molding plane. If you've been following me for a while, and if you haven't, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. But if you have, I did a bird's eye maple bridge table.
2017.
Thank you. So the underside had a cove that there wasn't a router bit for it. There was probably something close to it. Maybe I didn't have it. I needed it done. So I took this molding plane that I have no affection for. It's a nice plane, but this was like some kind of profile. I don't even know what you call it, but I shaped it to it, made a fairly large cove, and then I ground the blade to fit that cove. I've got it all the way retracted right now, so there's a big gap in there, but it fits nice and tight. I just ground the blade to that cove. Now I had a cove that I could do the underside of my table with.
Is that a signature on the end right there? What's that?
Yeah, it's either most of the time when the
I see.
person who made it would make put the stamp on there, and then the owner, each person who owned it, would usually put their stamp or something. So there's several different stamps on there.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
And a lot of times there's 5 or 6 of them on there. This one just has 2. Whether I think, and who knows? A lot of times makers back then had a stamp to sign their work or to whatnot. But this is another example. Not that I want you should go butcher tools up, but if you have a need for something specific that doesn't exist or you don't have access to it, you can make it happen. And this, it took some fiddling, but it's exactly what I wanted. And it didn't cost me anything but the time to do it. And I felt pretty cool about doing it. Like, hey, I made it.
It was like they said, like, feeling capable of doing
Yeah, I was kind of in that, and there's a confidence that comes with that too. And it's like, like, okay, I can do it. I can make it happen, even if I don't have it.
Find a way.
Yeah. Because, let's face it, if you're making furniture for a living, you probably don't have a whole lot of just disposable income to just buy every tool there is. Now, you look behind me and I have a lot of tools, but I've been making for, almost 20 years now. And I always joke, but 90% of these were before I was married and had children. So it's just a fact, so,
it's the way it goes.
Yeah, it's just the way it goes. So modify your tools. Don't be scared.
What we got next?
So this one I made out of the same block of rosewood as the other one. I wanted to make a really high angle for some difficult grain. This one's sticking up so far because I bought the extra long blade that time, just so there was more life to it, but it's no different than the other. So I did more faceting on this one than carved stuff. This one, I really like this one too. This one works well. It's got a small footprint, so it can kind of get in to some tighter areas, not necessarily like in a corner tighter area, but like if you had some grain direction swirling in a small place, you can tackle it with this. And I didn't mention that, I mentioned that the way you adjust these is with the hammer. I made my hammer as well. And that's just a piece of 3/4 brass rod, drilled a hole. I think I tapered it or made it to where I could wedge the handle. And then this is some either East Indian rosewood or some Honduran too, but obviously different than this. This is kind of red.
I say he needs to make some more of those.
Yeah.
I think. Y'all let us know
Yeah.
what you think about this, because I think he needs to make some to sell, because those are
Yeah.
really nice. I like the shape
Yeah.
and the lines.
Yeah. I will say that there's definitely some buddy of mine who makes plain Smeek.
Yeah.
Scott Meek. Smeek Woodwork or Smeek. I don't know what. I'm sorry, dude.
I think it's Woodworks.
Yeah. Anyway, he makes tools. Scott Meek. You can always look that up. So this you'll recognize this shape. It's definitely pulling on some of his stuff. I believe I made it after got to hang out with him a little bit at demoing at Lee Nielsen. Him and who'd we meet that time?
Sterling was there.
No, who'd we meet? Yeah, Sterling was there, Caleb, James, but who'd we meet? Cliff Flavin?
Oh, yeah.
From Cheers?
Yes.
I can't remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Random. Well, you had coffee with him.
Yeah.
You were just like in the coffee shop chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came back. He's like, oh, I had coffee with him. I was like, okay.
Yeah. So this is the last one I made. I just had a big honking, decided I was going to make a really big one. This
to
is
go
some.
from something that small.
I know, right? This is a big one. No finish on this, but this is some awesome mahogany that I was fortunate enough to come across.
Why haven't you finished it or put finish on it?
There's really
Not in a hurry.
no, and like I just I don't think I was quite done with it. Like I see a big ding in it right there. Then whatever. I think it just got put aside. But this stuff you probably won't be able to see, but especially if it was polished. But this stuff,
still shining.
It glows in the dark. It really does. It's awesome. So some old Honduran, at least, definitely some island mahogany, if not Cuban. Just awesome, dense, heavy stuff.
So pretty.
Really nice stuff. And then this bottom is actually, you see that the black stripe over there, that's ebony. Well, it's all ebony, but it's, this is the part that's not black. And if it's not ebony, it's persimmon, but I'm not quite sure. It was from a student who gave me a piece of it. He said it was ebony, but at first I was like, no way, man. But then the more I looked, it could possibly be. That being said, if it's persimmon, that's still an ebony, so he wasn't lying.
Hey.
Yeah, it's only ebony we have in America. In America, so. Yeah, and I guess I forgot the one thing. Probably the first one I made was my mallet from boat school, and this was the first tool I made for sure. Designed to be taken apart. Swollen since I got it home here, but goes together.
I didn't know I did that. You scared me.
Oh God, you're like, he's gonna break it. This is Gary oak, which is a white oak from the island, from the West Coast. I think it's in California. It's definitely in Oregon and Washington State, but I was in British Columbia. Probably the nicest white oak, or it's just incredible stuff. But this was my big mallet for boat building. So, but it's made to be broken down and put in a chest. And
I mean, if you can bang it like that, then you can
well,
definitely.
right. Well, that's that. You can see it's wedge shaped, so there's a wedge shaped mortise in there.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm learning a lot today.
Yeah. So, 2004. So I guess it hasn't been quite 20 years yet. Anyway, I'll put that together later, so I'm not banging in your ear. But yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another little mallet. Can't say there was a whole lot of use for that besides just wanting to make one. I don't think I've used it much, honestly.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I think I made that back in the old shop. Yeah. It is.
I haven't made any tools, I don't think. No.
The other stuff I'd have to demo.
We should do that another day for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Because it seems like this was a good topic.
Yeah. A couple other good things.
Anybody have any questions? Happy to answer any questions about the tools or anything in general. Don't feel like we have to ask questions about tools today. It is neat to see you talk about all the different ones. I didn't realize you had made that many. So yeah.
Yeah.
But no, well, today is Wednesday, and yesterday you started working on, it's right here, you probably can't see it, but started hollowing out the seat on his rocking stool, and so I'm assuming you'll put back up there tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You look mostly hollowed out here.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's coming along really well.
mm-hmm. So yeah. You have, and Ryan asked, you have a scratch stock hanging around, buddy? Oh, you must be talking about the ebony.
Do you have any scratch stock hanging around? I don't know. Maybe? What kind of scratch stock? Like making scratch stock? No, I don't. distracted me. I don't know what I'm talking. I'm trying to show my seat. Ryan. Anybody else, that's fine. But Ryan, you got to watch it.
Black. No, I'm sorry.
If you need some, I can make you some. But so yeah, just can't really see it. It all looks flat right now. But I hadn't really hollowed the front. It's mostly the back. You can see some of the depth like that. Oh, hey. Scratch stock holders profile. That's what I thought. I do. I haven't made any though. I'm just picking on you, man. I do. Oh, sorry, Katie.
You're fine.
So that's definitely an easy tool to make. Basically, it's a piece of wood that holds a piece of steel that
A scratch stock holder.
scratch stock holder.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, it's that's a really about as simple a tool to make. Basically it holds a piece of steel that has a profile in it that holds it at a depth that you choose, and a piece of wood that registers against the wood your piece of wood you're using it on, and it basically scratches the profile in there. That's I don't do a whole lot of profile stuff, so I can't say I've had a real need to make one, besides it being a handy thing to have around if you need something like that. Yeah, I haven't made one. Sorry, man. I could make you one, Ryan. I think I probably owe you. So.
But it was like you said earlier, like you could go on forever in getting tools and stuff. And I guess it depends like project to project, and especially when you have commissions and custom things, sometimes you need to buy this really expensive tool that can do this one thing that you need for this one project.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
it
I
can
mean,
complicate
yeah,
things.
when that scratch that just in itself would be, where's that thing? Yeah, so yeah. So this is a bead. This is a Lee Nielsen tool, and I don't have the blades in there now, but it's a piece of steel up here that has a profile, and you scratch the profile in there. But we know that these are expensive tools, and if you need one right away and you don't have whatever X amount of money this costs, $100-something, then a piece of wood with a piece of steel with the profile ground in it, for one job, I mean, it makes more sense. Can I remove moisture in a wood cabinet that's taking a lot of moisture?
Say that out loud real quick.
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
How can I remove moisture in a wooden cabinet that takes a lot of moisture?
Yeah.
So sorry that on YouTube they won't be able to see the questions. So
Okay.
I like to read them out loud. Listen, just trust the moderator. Okay?
So, what are the little packs of silica? What do you call them? The
little silica beads that come in like new
yeah,
shoes and
stuff like that. Like I keep a couple in my there's some in my cabinet now. They draw the moisture out.
Only them around your kids.
Yeah.
Your dogs.
There's if we're talking about a decent amount of moisture, I'm not sure how much they actually remove, and you probably need to keep refreshing them, because I don't know anything about the science necessarily behind them, how long they last, if they max out or whatever. But I do keep them around. Luckily, I am in a climate controlled shop right now, but I still have them in there just in case, because I'm in the South
and we're in a swamp.
It's super humid. My previous shop was a barn, and rust was a big deal and a problem. Not only that, I had a leaky roof, and rain would run down the walls where my tools were hanging and all that stuff. But that's an easy way, and to put the little packs in there, and as many as you can.
Just collect
try to
them.
draw the moisture out.
I'm sure you can buy like a dish of them or something somewhere.
Yeah, there's probably something a little bit more, something bigger, or something that they might have a little bit more capability of removing a large amount of moisture. But that's what I do. So, yep. Hope that answers that.
Yeah. So any other questions been another good one. Hi. It goes by so fast, especially when you get into like talking about something you really passionate about. So yeah.
Come on.
Hi. So, all right. Well, I'll give it a few more seconds. Sometimes some questions come in a little bit delayed. Thumbs up. Good. Glad we're answering your questions. So, but real quick, we're here Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern on Instagram. That's at JWT Woodworks. You can also catch Mary May at 1 p.m. Eastern on Twitch. And then tonight, Women of Woodworking has a special live on Wednesday nights at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So you can tune in with me there. And I like to kind of keep that one open and just let people who tune in be my guests. So if you're interested or know a woman woodworker that would be interested in maybe coming and chatting with me tonight, that'd be good. We had Kate from the Florida School of Woodwork last week. We also had, I believe it was Kendra from Damn Rad Designs in Alberta, Canada. So international, that was pretty cool. Yeah, and even on here, it's neat to see all the different people from around the world that tune in. And I feel very fortunate that we live in the middle of nowhere, but we still live in this day and age that we can reach out to y'all from right here. So, all right. Thanks.
Don't get a lot of visitors anytime, especially not now. So,
not now.
Welcome to the shop.
Well, that was the thing though, is like you used to get visitors almost every day, and you would still get them pretty frequently. We had to kind of ease up on that just because you again get carried away in conversation. Your entire day is gone. So, and especially since you've been at the school, I feel like
the shop time's
just not
precious.
here.
I'm like, leave me alone. It's my work day.
But yeah,
don't knock on my door.
So yeah, but I love the jobs you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So hopefully we'll have a new one to talk about here. Well, you've already got like more jobs to do, but going to.
Oh yeah, gotta go meet a client today. So.
Yes, socially distant.
Yes.
From away.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes, sir.
But thank y'all for tuning in. And again, these are all recorded and added to YouTube. So if you go on and search Joseph Thompson Woodworks, check out our channel and you'll be able to watch most of the previous live streams from the past few weeks. All right. Thanks, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.